Hello, welcome back to another episode of my Garage podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about what's been going on in the economy, but also some life stuff as I always do. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about just kind of some things uh, that are kind of important regarding inflation and energy prices. I would also say that I want to also start this by saying I was supposed to upload this on Friday, but I guess because of my bad timing and I guess lack of preparation, I had this speech in my my communications class that it took me like a forever to do, and it was just like a 5 minute speech, but it was just like it took forever because I just kept having trouble remembering what the next thing I was trying to say, and then my family was like, it's annoying because I have to have three people present for my speech, and my family, I would say they're kind of impatient, so it's just kind of hard to be doing something that takes time with people that don't are really impatient, and so that was kind of a struggle, and it took me a lot longer to film, and it took me almost like an hour to film, and I would say that I hope that I do get a good grade on it. I did spend a lot of time on what was going on in the speech, as well as uh, making sure that I was actually having a good flow and that it was actually good, I would say, and that it just came off fluid and I didn't stutter a lot. I think near the end I started to stutter because it was just like taking forever and there's so much information that I need to remember. And so that was kind of hard. And so that's kind of why I didn't upload on Friday. And also, I would say now that I'm getting closer to summer, it's getting harder and harder to focus on what it is that I need to be done. This is because, like, on one side, most of my classes that I'm taking right now, I have Asian, and I can afford to slack a little bit because I would say, like, I kind of grinded a lot in the beginning of the semester. But on the other hand, I also have to finish strong because when it comes to classes, um, I won't have to worry about getting my grade up on my final, so I can get an A, which is kind of a hard thing to do. And also, I want to keep being going as strong as I did in the beginning of the semester. Um, so I've been struggling with that recently. Like on Wednesday, I didn't start my work till around 12, whereas most days I usually start my work around like 9 or 10. But also, I did kind of make up for it because I worked through like I was eating lunch and doing work at the same time, and I think I didn't even end up finishing work till like maybe 4 or 5 or just kind of a little later. So it it I did kind of make up for it, but once I get started, it's very easy for me to get lost in my work I'm doing. So I don't know if it has also helped that I don't think it also helped that on Monday. It was last Monday. It was Memorial Day, and I decided not to do any work. And then on Tuesday, I did a lot of things outside of school, and also did a lot of work inside of school. So Tuesday kind of made up for it, and then Wednesday it made up for it. And also, I had this like I said, I had my speech. Besides just trying to memorize all the information, it's like it's not that hard because um, in this communications class, my main assignments are just giving speeches, and I think that this podcast has given me a leg up and kind of given me an advantage in practice on speeches because I'm used to like talking for like 20 to 30 minutes by myself, reading off a script that I write. And but compared to this class where I have to give like 5 minute speeches, I feel like it's not really anything compared to this. But I think the hardest part is just not having um, my script in front of me and just kind of memorizing it. I think my next speech that I have to do is my final speech. I will try to actually use note cards and actually write down what it is that I need so I can actually remember what I need to say instead of just trying to think off the top of my head. And like, I also um, have like some visual cues to help me, but it doesn't really help. So it's kind of different, but also it's just kind of easy once I get talking about the speech without like stuttering and looking at the my audience and just moving around. And also, before we get into what's happening this weekend in the economy, I keep realizing how important it is, how the little things that I don't want to do, or the things that I don't want to face are important because they help me set up to get to the places I want. Like, I, I keep beating myself up about this, but if I realized a lot sooner, my life would be a lot different. But I would like to say that I hope I take what I learned and can apply it moving forward. Like when I transfer, I'm going to need to work really hard to get an internship over the summer through networking, joining clubs, meeting people, and doing well in my classes just overall. And just trying to stay consistent and stay improving and putting myself places that I can never, so I can put myself in places that I can never imagine for myself. So I'm hopeful and believe in myself no matter what happens. I will make the best of what I have and really have no expectations for what's in store to me, like having expectations that because I work hard, um, I'll get what I want. And there's so much more to life than just doing one thing because there's going to be a lot of step backs and just being able to pivot and adjust and learn from them so I can be better equipped to dealing with again just in case that situation happens. And I also think in small things like reading because it's really hard for me to read if there's something that I don't really care about. I skim over a lot of things when I read and I think that ends up giving me bigger mistakes, but every time I feel like speed running my textbooks for class, I try to take a break and remember that if this actually makes it worse and it actually makes me take even longer um doing the whole assignment because I have to constantly go back because I just skip through the text and I gotta remember like and then I try to rewrite it and I lose what's important and it just kind of makes the whole process take a lot longer if I just actually just like slow down and able to like think about it, I guess, or just like analyze it better and take my time. It eventually it would get easier, and then I don't have to worry about coming back and over again, and it just makes the thing a lot faster. Um, so I just kind of keep working towards that. And getting back to the economy and stocks, finally, I would say, on Thursday, I was writing this on Tuesday or Wednesday. On Thursday, which has passed and now has released, and I'll get into that later. The personal consumption expenditure market or expenditure index, which is according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, is a tool used by the Fed to learn how much people in the U.S. or on behalf of people in the US spend on goods and services. And this is best for capturing inflation or deflation across a wide variety of consumer expenses and reflects changes in consumers' behavior. And this is a good way to just track how well consumers are actually spending because if more people are spending a lot, it's a period where a lot of people have a lot of higher wages, but as people that don't have a lot of money, it gets they don't spend as much. And basically, in short, this index by use it works by using how much consumers spend, which is the average person who doesn't have a business or yeah, something like that. They track how much they spend, and depending on whether there is an increase or decrease in their spending, they use that to track how inflation is affecting consumers. And if reports show an increase on Thursday, this will be one of the first signs that the Fed will want to increase interest rates because they will feel the pressure from the markets and want to get ahead of the problems by creating policies to protect the US economy to avoid future problems that could lead to I'm trying to think of the word. Um, just basically huge problems. And according to the US Bureau of Economics, in April, even though there were good reports from the stock and I would say, I may be using this wrong, but a bull market, it does not reflect how consumers have been affected by the current economy. According to reports released on Thursday, April April 28th, sorry, I forgot what date it was. Personal income decreased by 0.1 billion, or 19 million to be exact. And meanwhile, meaning individuals are receiving less money from their employers, investments, and or government benefits. And I would like to say that this shows a growing struggle in the U.S. economy. But the reason for this is primarily that farmers who own their own land have income that is being offset by compensation, so they're not receiving. Their income isn't being reported by, how would I say, what they receive from it, but by subsidies and other things like that. And they aren't raising their income, but just rep- their income might be the same. And I would like, and from what I can see, this can show that based on these reports, inflation may not need to rise, but in recent news, there's been more developments in the Strait of Hormuz, which may cause conflict and push already unstable energy prices even higher. And Iran and the U.S. are in the midst of a possible deal to open the Strait of Hormuz and this was on Thursday. The U.S. hopes that Iran will allow free travel both ways and will have no restrictions on the passageway, and that's what they're hoping to achieve from this deal. And this seems to be really unrealistic from my personal, uh, from my personal opinion. And knowing the history of the U.S. with countries that want to nationalize or want to uh, charge or not let another person come in and exploit it, basically. Um, I will say this will continue to be a source of conflict for a couple months, and worst case, probably till the end of the year, which is kind of uh, a couple months, honestly. Iran uh, and Iran has already stated that they do not want to give up control, since right now they produce 20% of the world's oil, and from what I'm seeing, it seems like they just don't want to be taken advantage of and actually be able to reap some of these benefits that these other countries like Europe, the United States, and just kind of countries all over the world that are able to benefit from Iran and their oil. And Iran just basically wants a piece of that pie. And the U.S., in light of this news, stated that they would want to continue the conflict if they continue with this idea that they want to basically nationalize their oil. And they want to ensure a unrestricted free trade with Iran and the oil and just energy and everything they have access to because of the Strait of Hormuz, that basically what goes in and out of there. And Trump stated that he would, this might be a little bit over dramatic, but he stated that he would blow up Iran if he did not conform to what the U.S. interests are. And the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, would want to impose heavy sanctions on Iran if they wanted to continue to have these ideas over the control over the passageway. And these sanctions, I guess like an example of this would be how Cuba is kind of like with their cars, and I see it on social media all the time where like in Cuba they're driving cars from the 50s because they can't import any cars because the U.S. has sanctions on them because they, I think, of Che Guevara, and being just kind of aligned with communism, and the U.S., especially in like the 50s or 60s when communism was on the rise, they did not want to have this spread, and especially with a country this close like Cuba, which is I think it's like 90 miles from Florida, and having a country that I guess supports like Russia, and especially during a time where the Cold War, uh, they felt like Cuba would be able to spy on them because of how close they are, and they just didn't want to take that risk. Um, there still might be a lot more information to that, and I'm just kind of giving a brief history, but I'm just giving an example of sanctions and past uses of them. And in this deal that the U.S. and Iran are possibly talking about, it would extend the ceasefire by 60 days and lift restrictions on travel through the Strait. Um, there would still be not as many ships to be able to go through, but they would. I thought I felt a spider. There will still be a uh, how do I say this? There will still be some limitations on who can go in and out of these straits, but they want to start getting people to be able to have access to oil and getting it just around the world. And this would provide some relief for energy prices, and companies that have raised prices may lower them slightly, but this may not be for a while. And because things like this take time, but what may be an elephant in the room is that companies may want to keep prices like this for a while to recover losses and grow wealth, and just kind of offset the and just keep repairing, because a lot of things are just kind of unstable right now, especially in this conflict and with energy prices just around the world, because next thing we know, um, fighting may continue, and say that these companies lowered prices too um, hastily. They're out on a loss, and now they have people they need to pay back, and so it just makes it a lot harder to be able to rapidly change prices. And investors are a little worrisome because uh, this deal relies on both countries, I would say, playing nice, for lack of better words, and avoiding conflict. But this is what brings trouble on both countries, or all countries involved, because I'm gonna be honest. I would say that these countries are kind of aggressive, especially the U.S., when it comes to feeling the need to defend, I guess, their interest. So we still have to wait and see um, what will happen next. And this deal will allow time for officials to deal with Iran in their nuclear power. And I would say, based off past experiences, especially like in the 2000s, when if I'm remembering this right, um, when Bush he I think it was desert he announced plans for Desert Storm, and it was just basically off the idea that Middle Eastern countries. I don't remember the specific Middle Eastern country exactly, but he was basically saying that he went to war with them because of the military power that they potentially had with nuclear weapons, and which was later disproven. Uh, and I feel like this is a ruse just to start the war. Yeah, start a war. And I feel like, again, in past wars, they won't find find evidence of nuclear war. And at the end of the day, I just feel like this, I guess, war or battle or whatever you would call it, is just kind of a loss at this point for the U.S. And it's increased their spending and their deficit, and their debt and the deficit has increased significantly since the start of the war, because I think it's like, I think a billion or trillion or dollars a day. I think it's definitely a billion, and I said this in our previous video. I think it was like exactly somewhere around $900 million they're spending every day on this, and in the long run, this is just very hard for the U.S. with an increasing debt and deficit. I kind of just said the same thing over again, but hopefully you were able to understand it in the loss of my words. And like I say, we just have to wait and see what will happen next, because paying attention to the little details, like announcements of deals or all these other things, they build up to get to the solution or the next step. So I try to pay attention to all information and even little things to guess what might happen next. And that's really all we can do at this point, especially as observers and people that don't have any say or control in the next steps, or the next step of this process. So a lot of the time, especially investors who I feel kind of bad. I feel bad for. They have a lot of money in the stock market, and with an unstable market, uh, they try to make predictions and just kind of based off the evidence they have to guess what might happen next, and based off those guesses and with evidence in like CPI or anything like that, uh, they try to make guesses and just base their investments, when they're gonna sell, when they're gonna buy, off just all the information that they have access to, because life is just kind of unexpectable, and when your money's on the line, especially like big investors who have millions and millions of dollars in the stock market and just kind of in the economy and just in portfolios and all these other things, you pay attention to a lot of these details. And that's kind of all I have for this week. I think another thing that's just kind of been worrying me recently is I'm getting closer and closer to leaving to school or transferring, and it's a little worrisome because I spent a lot of time trying to leave, but now that's getting closer, it's just like, oh wow, all the work I did, it's coming together, and it's kind of scary because it's a new thing, and I just gotta learn to like accept it and be confident about my decisions and what I want to do with my life. And I guess because I'm with the school I'm choosing, I have the summer free, which is really nice for me because these past 2 summers, the past summer, um, or these past 2 years, really, I just been working really just nonstop, um, so in order to achieve my dream or I guess my goal of transferring. So it's gonna be nice to have a little break, but once school starts up, I'm gonna have to start getting really really grindy, I guess, to get like an internship or to figure out what it is that I want. And I think it's a little harder because I'm at a non-target school, and it's kind of a thing in the field I want. And I think it's a lot of things, and it's similar in a lot of fields, um, where basically the school you went to, like alumni, they fight to get you into these positions, and with a lot of the alumni from these top 25 schools, um, getting into these hard programs, these prestigious jobs, it's a lot harder because there's not as many alumni from the schools that I go to or the school I'm going to in this field. And so with the few that are there, I want to try to make the best connection I can. And it's just, I feel like my life is just kind of ramping up right now, but there's always going to be something I need to do. There's always going to be something that I'm going to have to work towards in order, like all these small things I need to do. And like, yeah, it's good to take a break, but with what I just, it's just hard sometimes because it's hard to balance like taking a break and at least for me, taking a break and working on what I need to do. Like with this podcast today, I almost felt like I wasn't going to record today because I was just like, I'm tired of this. But then it's like, I've learned a lot of information about what's going on in the world and kind of what's happening with the world. And so I just find it really cool because like I can look back on it and it's like, oh, this happened, and then I saw how this later happened, or this later happened because of that. And so just all these small things, like I say, it's just really important to take my time and just learn as much as I can. And I want to say thank you, and please continue to watch and support.